how's the faith ground going? Have you started to enlarge it, explore it, open it up, and beginning to build through your own faith a meeting place, a meeting ground where you and God are meeting, and it's just the beautiful place you can go even in the hardest moments of life, and that's what we want you to get from this week, and that's what Daniel did. And he really did really well at it. He didn't let panic hit him. Instead, he went for wisdom, and he called out to God for that. And he began to ask questions and get the background, find the context, and prepare coming to this faith ground to God, knowing what he was up against. What did he really need here? What is the real issue? By the way, sometimes it takes time to actually sort out what the real issues are. Yeah. And you have to really sort it out. And, when we go through things, ladies like this, sometimes we're thinking the issue is our finances when God is saying, actually, it's your heart and your alignment with your values are out of whack. And this isn't going to go away until we work on your heart. And that's why it's good to actually take that first phase, seek God's wisdom, get his insight, ask questions, be a learner. And then next, know what you need. Daniel knew, once he knew what the problem was, he needed time. We're going to start there. We brushed against it yesterday. But time was needed because panic and time are not friends.
No, I was just reflecting on this. When I am in a panic, the last thing I want to do is be in that panic for a long time. Like you want to escape. It's like
let's prolong this moment.
I want to I'm scrambling, of course, but it's like, let's get back to a comfortable place, right?
That's the part of the story that I really love is Daniel does recognize, right away, this could be a situation of panic, but he stays calm in his faith, and he says, okay, I need clarity, I need time, and I know where to go to get the answers, and that is to my faith ground, to God, who can give us the answers. And I love that just kind of like, okay, here's the situation, now I'm going to remain calm, and here's my next steps. You're so like level-headed about it that is just awesome.
Well, it is awesome, actually. It really is. I'm still laughing at prolonging panic. That's definitely not a game plan, right?
No.
And the motivation is shut this down as quickly as possible. I remember when we were down in holiday country, Vernon country there, and with Britain, she was just little at the time, and we were at the water park, and she got lost at the water park, and there's hundreds of people in this place, and your head just wasn't there a minute, and she's gone. Well, there were some family and friends. Well, we all just blew out of there. We go that way, you go that way, you go that way, and your throat is filled with your heart.
Totally.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
and just what you want to prolong that. By the way, do you know where we found her? Next to the gambling machines. That's where she was. That's where she was.
Interesting.
But Daniel, what he does is actually once he finds out what the issue is, he gets clear. I love the word clarity.
Gets clear.
And then he goes to and he says, okay, now I need time. King, you give me time, I'll give you the answer. Faith and time are friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Panic and time are not. Faith and time are.
Yeah, if you really think about it, there's very few decisions that have to be made immediately, right?
That's right.
Most decisions can accommodate some time.
Do I go through this yellow light or not? Yes.
Okay, not those ones. Those ones require a little bit of, reactivity. But I forget this all the time when I'm asked to make a decision. I forget that I can ask for time. Sometimes it's like, oh, I better answer this. People are waiting, and we need to move towards a solution. And you know what? Sometimes I can ask for time and bring it to God.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think that's such a discipline that just needs to be worked and developed, because it's so true. I'm so quick to go right into solving and answering and not necessarily taking the time I need to really sit with it and seek God. Yeah.
There was a guy I heard speak at a leadership conference once, bought his book, I think it was called The Contrarian. And he was the University of Southern California and head honcho, whatever they call those guys. And so he he was he talked about really this principle of decision making.
Right.
And his basic thing was twofold. He said, first off, if he's sitting around a table with other leaders, he's first off figuring out, is this my decision to make? Or is it somebody else's around this table?
Yeah.
Next, he's figuring out whether this decision needs to be made now.
Right.
And he says, I only make decisions when I absolutely have to, in a sense. More or less, I know the decision must be made.
Yeah.
And then I make the decision.
Yeah.
More or less, he's saying time is a friend of good decision making.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what Daniel was doing here too. He was saying, I need time to go meet with this God that's going to give you the dream and has given you the dream and the interpretation.
Yeah.
And faith and time are definitely friends. Your faith will grow in those periods of waiting.
Absolutely.
Waiting
Yeah.
for an answer, waiting for what God is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what else is a friend of faith? Going to your friends for prayer. And that is another thing Daniel did.
He did.
He went back and got his 3 homeboys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they started praying together.
Yeah, I know there's been so many times in my life, it's just, I've been so almost dependent on my friends that have come alongside me and held me up in prayer, what a relationship builder, hey? You just go to a whole new level when you come together and pray about these deep, intimate things in life.
I know for me, my initial reaction when I'm dealing with a problem is to actually squirrel away and go inward and, almost keep it from people. And, that's something God has been working on in me to actually open up and bring friends into this. And when I was first married, my husband had a friend group from the church that I was introduced into, and I remember having them over for dinner, and one of them asked us just to pray for a situation happening in their lives. And the vulnerability that it opened up within this friend group right away to be praying for one another, standing around my kitchen is something that deepened our friendship immediately. And it was amazing.
And that's one of the great byproducts, right, of rounding out your Christian relationships with true fellowship.
Yes.
Which we bear one another's burdens.
That's right.
Like we lean into each other's prayers. We get a little more honest and say, I really could use your prayer on this.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so hard.
It's so hard.
But I don't know. It is, and I get it. Like for me too, it can be hard. But the idea of it is absolutely right. And I know the practice of it works too. And Daniel went there.
Yeah.
So he gets time, and then he goes to his friends and says, guys, you got to pray with me. Here's what we need to pray about. And then we go to the last thing he did that we're going to cover today. And it was, they really prayed specifically and expectantly. Because he goes in and he says, hey, guys, basically we're going to pray specifically. We need to pray that we don't get killed. Yeah. Okay. That's specific.
Yeah.
And we're going to pray expectantly because we're going to him who we know gave the dream, and that he is good, and that he's going to meet us on this ground of faith that we have built in our life.
Right.
And he is going to, I expect him to respond. And he's going to give us an answer.
Wow.
So that was very powerful.
Very powerful.
They're not controlling God or shaping God. They're shaping God's answer by their faith, and there's a difference.
Right. Yeah, they're not bringing us these specifics to God, hoping to manipulate him. They're coming to him with a strong faith, a faith that's been built over time, a ground that's been built on faith over time. And God is recognizing that and paying attention to that. And they're honoring him, and he is, he's paying attention. He knows they have this relationship. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I really love how specific he does in his prayer. And I know sometimes in my life I can feel like, well, am I praying it the right way? Am I asking the right way? How do I need to, use my prayers to kind of, or manipulate how I do it? Yeah, the formula. But here he just comes to God like, his God, his Father, and says, here's what we need. It's so simple and so beautiful, and it's amazing.
I find that the hotter the heat, the more specific I can get, and how much easier it is to get specific.
Right.
But but if it's just sort of the generalities of life, God, I've got this going on today. I could really use your wisdom or your strength or your, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we're not specific enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because we're just kind of going at this in a general way. And I think it's good to get specific because that raises your expectancies.
That's right.
Otherwise, how do you raise your expectancies when you won't be specific?
Yeah.
So God, I don't just need wisdom today. God, I need wisdom for exactly this today, and I need it for this meeting today, and I need it for this moment today. And the more that you act that way, the more expectant you will become.
Right.
And you can see God's response. So I would really encourage the specifics and, of course, raise your expectancies because of that.
Yeah, I think sometimes I have been withholding on the specifics out of a fear that if he doesn't answer it the way I've been specifically praying for, like, what is that going to look like? What is that going to mean? And I mean, I've had that happen, when I had miscarried, obviously when we knew there could be something wrong with the baby, we were praying, God, please let this baby live. And of course, the baby didn't live. But what happened was not that my faith was altered. My faith in God grew stronger. My intimacy with God grew stronger through this really difficult time. I learned to lean on him in a different way and watch him work and move in my life in a different way. And I've seen so many blessings because of what we went through in that. So it didn't take away my faith. If anything, it drew me closer and built that ground stronger.
I think, Angela, that's a sure sign that you're not trying to shape God, but your faith is definitely shaping God's answer.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I think we all probably have to grow out of that and through it a bit, but where we're trying to shape God. And we know we're doing that, by the way, that when we don't get the answer we want, there's a disconnect with God.
Yeah.
And so more than likely you were trying to shape God. What you wanted faith do is to shape God's answers, that he responds to your specifics and shapes this answer because of your faith, that you're meeting him on that ground.
Yeah.
And so, you have power to shape God's answers for those prayer requests. So be specific, be expectant, and God will, and when you meet him on the faith ground that we're talking about and have been talking about, God will respond. And his answer will be shaped by your faith. He will respond. And if you don't get it exactly the way you wanted it, if you're just trying to have God's answer shaped for you rather than you shaping the God who answers, your connection with God will only grow in trust and believing that he always knows best, whether it's a yes, a no, or
Or maybe.
wait.
Yeah.
God bless you.